And good morning to our speakers for joining us from North America and woke up early to join us today. We're delighted to open this webinar, which is third in a series of webinars done in collaboration between UNDP Acceleration Lab in Ethiopia, the Israeli Embassy in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and us, the Pears program for global innovation. As this is the third and last time we'll run this webinar, I'd like to invite Or Danieli, the Deputy Chief of Mission at the Israeli Embassy in Ethiopia, to give some opening remarks. So Or, go ahead.
Thank you, Hagit, and thanks to all the participants that are joining us. I can see the numbers and I'm really happy. So as Hagit said, this is the third webinar we are having as a part of a series with the UNDP Ethiopia. So we had two more before, and you can watch them on our Facebook page and also on UNDP and Pears Program for Development Facebook page. So please do. And in a broader context, this is a collaboration we are having with UNDP for the past, I think, almost 2 years, and Ministry of Innovation to promote the innovation ecosystem in Ethiopia. And I'm glad that we found such a great partners to continue in this collaboration. So today's topic is about open sources for social and economic change innovation. And I have a very fresh example from today. Today we just handed over a donation of 200 face shields that we produced using 3D printing technology. Actually, what we've done, we found an open source 3D printing design of these face shields and brought it to a local entrepreneur. So he printed these 200 face shields, and this is how we can assist the Ministry of Health of Ethiopia to contain the spread of coronavirus here. And also this open source design will be here in Ethiopia and can be amended or adjusted to other users. So this is a great example for this kind of collaboration we are doing. I hope we can follow up after this series of webinars. Of course, I invite you all the participants to contact us, the embassy, through our Facebook page, and also UNDP and the Pears Program for Development, if you have any ideas of further collaborations. Another thing, during the last 2 seminars and also this one, you were exposed to Israeli companies. And if you have any idea of collaboration or anything you would like to ask or connect them, please feel free to do it through the embassy. We'll be very glad to help you with that. And without further ado, I would like to thank especially Gizacho and Aya and Wodessa from UNDP and Hagit from Pears Program for Development, and of course to Ali and Nadav that will be our experts for today, and wish you all an enjoyable webinar, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Or. And now I'd like to invite Gizacho Sisai, who's the team leader of Inclusive Growth and Sustainable Development Unit at UNDP, to also give some opening remarks. So, Gizacho, please open your mic and camera.
Thank you, Hagit, and I think it's good afternoon for everyone. I think I've been introduced. My name is Gizacho. I'm a team leader, UNDP Ethiopia country office. I think we don't have much time to go through, but I will briefly highlight how Ethiopia is responding for this pandemic. I think that, as you know, the first case was traced 11 March, and it's now more than 2 months since Ethiopia traced the first case. And by today, as of today, we have about 369 cases with 5 days. In fact, it's not that I mean the increase in cases is very slow compared to in other countries. In general, this pandemic is expected to have a significant socioeconomic impact in Ethiopia, like any country. In fact, the impact has started even before the COVID, because Ethiopia is, as you know, much dependent on import and export of raw materials and products. So the impact in China and many other big players in the economy, that has significantly impacted. And also the export, for example, if we take the flour export has been impacted significantly at the beginning, even though it's now reviving. So in order to identify the socio-economic impact, to make it more short, I think the UN has been asked and designated by the Ethiopian government to conduct a socio-economic impact assessment, and I'm part of that team as one UN. In fact, UNDP is leading this process. Right now, we have the first draft socio-economic impact assessment, and based on this assessment, we are now expected to develop a response and a recovery plan for Ethiopia in the coming 6 to 12 months period, and we're developing that. Just to give you some highlights, hopefully maybe I will also come back later to give you some updates. For example, it's expected that the economy is going to be impacted significantly. If I have to tell some figures, for example, the GDP in a very optimistic scenario, it might reduce from 7 to 4.2% in a very optimistic. As the pessimistic scenario is, it might reduce up to as low as 2.2% growth. As you know, Ethiopia has been experiencing a very significant economic growth in the past decade. So this will be very much slowed down. And also, as you know, Ethiopia is in the stage of economic reform. And we were expected to conduct elections this year. That's going to be postponed. So it has, a lot of implication on the country, given that we have been at the stage of economic transformation. And the big players like Ethiopian Airlines has been also significantly impacted, even though they are trying to recover in a different way. And the other key indicator I want to highlight is jobs. We have, being Ethiopia is an emerging economy, we have a significant number of micro, small, medium, and also large enterprises. So the impact on this would be higher. We are expecting a job loss from like 1.6 million in a very optimistic scenario, up to 2.4 million job losses in the government. And we're also expecting a loss in business of at least 30% of the micro, small, and medium enterprises will be reducing, I think, their business activities. So in general, it's going to affect Ethiopia, even though the pace is slow, but the impact on the social economy would be higher. Hopefully you might have heard from our Accelerator Lab team. We're supporting the Ministry of Innovation for the Ethiopian innovators to come up with a solution as part of a response for COVID. And this morning we have had the last meeting. Hopefully next Thursday, the first award will be given for 9 of the selected innovators who come up with a solution to tackle, the pandemic. Hopefully we will invite the embassy, Israeli embassy, since they are part of this process from the early onset, as Mr. Daniel mentioned. Yeah, I think if you don't have a question, I don't want to take much of the time because we are expecting to hear more from you guys than from our side. If there is any question, maybe I will come later but the impact on the various sectors is different, particularly the service sector, the tourism is significantly impacted. I believe it will be the same in Israel as well. And also the business continuity in the government is something that we may need to consider as UNDP. How can we help government to be innovative, to deliver services for the public? I think we need to learn from from Israel and from other countries as well. And we need to adapt such good experiences so that Ethiopia would be in a better position to respond without the pandemic having a significant impact on the economy and also on the social and political aspect. So that's all from my side. Hopefully I will come back later if you do have any question. Thank you, Haget and Mr. Ol Daniel. Over.
Thank you very much for this very detailed overview, Gizachu. It's really good to start with this and to put the frame of what are we discussing and what are the challenges in Ethiopia. If there are any questions from the audience, please place them in the Q&A section, and we will, if time permits at the end, Gizachu, get back to you with questions that are coming from the audience. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, I'd like to invite Yarden just to say a few words about who are we, the Pears Program for Global Innovation, before we go ahead and start with our panelists for the day.
Thank you, Hagit. Yes, I'm happy to introduce you to the Pears Program for Global Innovation. It's an Israeli-based NGO that is working for the last 12 years, and our mission is to connect between Israeli innovation to global development challenges. We believe in the transformative power of value-driven innovation to improve people's lives all around the world. So we are helping entrepreneurs to develop economical activities in developing countries. What we do in a nutshell, eventually we have helped the government with research and policy to take the necessary infrastructure to help entrepreneurs of development to reach the different markets. We have established a lot of programs that are helping the existing entrepreneurs from ideation stage of startups to more deployment. And last but not least, we have a strong community here in Israel, but also in different countries and very focused in Africa, including in Ethiopia. So we welcome you to join our community on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook as Pears Program for Global Innovation. Our Facebook group where there's a lot of engagement and when you can ask some different advices and all to the community Israel Dev. And last but not least, the newsletter that you can sign up on our website. I will share all the links on the chat. During coronavirus time, we have shifted a bit our activities and purpose, like a lot of people. We actually took it as an opportunity, and mostly for entrepreneurs of development, that was the time to shine. So we have compiled resources for innovators, and you can have a look at it on all our social media. You will find it, and there's all funding opportunities for innovators and webinars of interest and so on. We have organized webinars like those ones to create some inspiration, and we have scouting technologies combating COVID-19. So if you are looking for some relevant communities, we would be happy to make the introduction. Feel free to contact us. That's our email address, Yarden and Hagit, and I will also share it on the chat. Thank you, Hagit.
So thank you very much, Yarden. So with no further delays, happy to open this webinar, which is focused on social and economic challenges We've discussed health challenges as well as government continuity in the past, and as I mentioned, you can go back to those resources. Today, we would like to get some inspiration from open source solutions. We'll hear both from a global network as well as from one entrepreneur sharing entrepreneurial experience. So I'm very happy to see from the poll that we have 45% of our participants are entrepreneurs, and almost half of you are familiar with open source solutions, which is what we'll be discussing today. So I'm very happy to invite Nadav Yesod, who's the Director of Global Communities in Tikkun Olam Makers, known as Tom, to present Tom's network, what they've done prior to Corona times and how they adjust to the COVID crisis, with a special call for collaboration with our audience and continue activities following this webinar. So Nadav, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much, Hagit, and thank you everyone. I'm just going to share my screen for a second so we can know.
Excellent. While you do that, I'll mention to our speakers, to our audience, that if you have any question during Nadav's presentation or after it, please type it at the Q&A section. We'll have time for questions at the end, but also if something is unclear throughout the presentation, please don't hesitate to post your questions and we'll do our best to address all of them.
Perfect. So thank you very, very much for having us here with you today. Thank you for the Israeli Embassy, UNDP, and the Pears Global Program for Global Innovation for inviting us and for generally organizing this great webinar series that really provides a lot of value to the audience, and we hope that the audience will enjoy this one as well. My name is Nadav Yesod. I'm the Director for Global Communities at Tikkun Olam Makers. I grew up in Israel. And most recently, I had the immense honor of representing Israel at the United Nations in New York. Previous to that, I served as a senior political advisor at the Israeli parliament. What brought me to Tikkun Olam Makers is really my passion for social impact. And I think that throughout the presentation, from the work that you'll do, you see, you'll figure out how amazing it is. So before we move forward into the content, I just want to touch base really quickly on the origins of our name. Tikkun Olam is a Jewish concept that really obligates each and everyone to act, to repair, to better the world. And this is really the core value of what we do. The second part in our name, which is makers, comes from the maker movement. Which is important to know. The maker movement places real value on an individual's ability to create things. And makers can come from all walks of life with diverse skill sets and interests. We always say that it's not your engineering degree or design degree, it's the fact that you have a good heart and good hands and you're willing to put in the time to actually make something for the betterment of the world. So without further ado, let's get to know a little bit about Tom. So what is Tom? What is Tom? Tom is an Israeli turned global humanitarian venture that was launched in 2014. We're a movement of innovators creating extremely affordable solutions for neglected needs of people with disabilities, the elderly, and other underserved individuals around the world. In Tom, we believe that nor geographic location or socioeconomic status should limit access to assistive technologies and devices. This is why Tom is committed to cultivating an open source, community-driven engagement between innovators on the one side, and on the other hand, the people with the need. So, and this is something that we do across the world. But you can ask yourself, why is Tom even needed? And the numbers just show you what is the extent of the need. In today's world, we have about 4 billion people that lack access to essential health services, and also 1 billion people that live with disabilities. That is almost 1 in 10 in our world that has some form of disability that most likely in some way or form, that disability provides a challenge to that individual. And some of these challenges really do not get any response. And this is really the global challenge, that millions of people around the world have neglected needs with either no market solution or no government solution to their needs because their conditions are rare or require significant customization. And these needs can range from the daily usage of a spoon at home to really being independent in using the restroom, for shower, for going out of the home, and many other neglected needs that come out of a day-to-day lives of the individuals. And in Tom, we basically came together and we thought about what is the best approach for how to tackle this. And the way that we have decided to go about it is to really harness technology, cutting-edge technology, so the 3D printing, human-centered design, and innovation to solve neglected needs in our societies. So let's dive in and see how exactly we do this. We do this with a threefold strategy. One is a process, two is a global movement, and three is a web platform. The process is set to standardize the innovation process. So it is well documented in our Tom playbook that really allows for anyone anywhere to replicate the process, scale it, and bring it to every community. We use this through a global movement that really drives forward open global innovation, and by creating a web platform where all solutions are housed and are available to download for free by anyone, anywhere. All Tom solutions are open source and belong in the public domain. And in the next slides, we'll see a couple of examples of real-life examples of the Tom products. But let's start with the first step, the Tom process. So the Tom process is divided into 4 steps. The first is really to identify what are the neglected needs and challenges that do not have a market solution or a government solution. And this is something that need knowers and makers, and we say need knowers because the one who needs most likely is the ones who's best positioned to know what is at least the idea, the way, the angle to which their problem can be solved. So need knowers and makers work together in teams to identify neglected challenges. The second step is that teams work together to design prototypes to solve need knowers challenges and upload them to the Tom website. And this is something that our most notably event and activity is the 2 to 3 day Makeathon, which is a hackathon of making, in which the teams really together, makers, engineers, designers, programmers, physical therapists, physicians, work together with the need knowers to create these solutions. It's important to know that we have different activities that fit different types of communities. So it really comes up to your wishes and your ability to create an activity. The third step is really taking these prototypes and advancing them, continuing user testing until a real product is ready with a digital documentation that can be uploaded to the Tom website, and then in turn disseminating this product, meaning being able for anyone anywhere around the world to download that digital product file and create that file, basically creating that solution, replicating that solution in your local makerspace, in a university innovation lab, in a corporation or a factory if they have the right tools to do it, or even a workshop. So it really much depends on what is the solution and what are the tools that are available for you. So I want to take you through the Tom journey, and this will really show you why and how Tom is so much needed. So I want to show, what I'm showing you now is the one hand and of Noam, who came to us in Tel Aviv. He lost his other hand in an accident, and he wanted more than anything to regain his independence in the kitchen, being able to cut vegetables, prepare meals, carry pots and pans. The only solutions today that were available are very expensive prostheses that are not easily accessible and carry also a lot of very difficult difficult components such as sensitivity to water, and being able to actually use it for this specific need. The Tom community in Tel Aviv, in Israel, came together with Noam to design what will become a pajama prosthesis. And you will see it in a second. And you can see now actually a 3D printed prosthesis that was designed for Noam, but can be actually replicated anywhere around the world. But our story does not end there. I move you, the second component is to carry pots and pans. And here you can see the different attachment that was created specifically for Noam's need to carry pots and pans. But our story doesn't end there. If we move fast forward to our community in Singapore, I want to introduce you to Boone. You can see him with the blue shirt on the left side. Boone lost all 4 limbs due to flesh-eating bacteria, and that really poses a huge challenge to his day-to-day life. He lost all of his independence. It was really reliant on everyone. The thing that he really wanted more than anything was to be able to use the restroom by himself, and not needing his caregiver to actually accompany. The Tom community in Singapore knew that the Tom Tel Aviv, they searched our web platform, they found the Tom Tel Aviv prosthesis. They took that prosthesis and designed it, improved it specifically for Boone's need. Again, this is all 3D printed and super simple to use. So it's very light, it's very durable, and it's very easy to print. But if you think that our story ends there, it doesn't. And this is really where the global movement and the web platform play an insane role. If we go forward, what you see in front of you now is a girl named Yael. Yael was born with no right arm, but she learned how to play through an own devised glove that she developed for herself. When she became a more serious violinist, she wanted something more professional that she can use. And this is exactly where she approached our Tom community in a city in Israel, in a college in Israel, in a different city outside of Tel Aviv, and asked them to design a prosthesis that will allow her to play. So the design that was improved in Singapore, that was originally in Israel designed, came back to Israel, further improved, and became a full-on product that you can go on to our web platform today. And you can see that also in the chat later on. We'll send the link where you can download this and actually create this prosthesis. And I think the most amazing component about this is that this prosthesis costs $60 to manufacture. So this is an extremely affordable solution to what otherwise would be thousands and thousands of dollars to actually design and manufacture. And this 3D printed prosthesis can be printed in any makerspace. And I'm going back to actually what all mentioned at the beginning regarding the 200 face shields that the embassy so generously donated to the Ministry of Health. The embassy can actually go with this product file and manufacture other prosthesises in Ethiopia. At the same time, anyone from Ethiopia can go on to our website, download this file, and actually share it with the rest of the world. The global movement of Tom currently exists in 24 countries. Our most recent country is South Korea, which opened a new community about 3 weeks ago, which is very exciting. We're now in discussions both in Uganda, and also we have our own initial community in Nigeria that was supposed to have an event very soon, but unfortunately because of the coronavirus, that had to be postponed. We're located in more than 67 communities, more than 5,000 volunteers, and more than 500 solutions are housed in our web platform. There are different types of communities that really, in order to really be able to fit the best type of community to the local community that exists. So we have Tom communities in cities such as Melbourne, Australia. We have Tom at rehabilitation centers And the logos that you see below are just the logos of the communities. Milbat is the name of the rehabilitation center. It's in Israel. Tomit Corporate Philips, which I'm sure you all know, it's an international, multinational company. Tomit School, we see Lafell here. It's a high school in New York City that has an innovation lab, and they actually have a full year course of innovation and a TOM course, basically. And the last component is a Tomit University model, which I want to take just a few seconds to really emphasize, because a Tomit University model really brings it all together. From the one hand, it has seasoned faculty and eager students who want to contribute, and the right facilities to actually create. Usually universities with an engineering school have laboratories, they have an innovation lab with 3D printing sometimes, with a woodworking, with basic tools, laser cutting, CNC machines, everything that one needs in order to really create. And I think a university, more than everything, its biggest impact can be on its immediate surrounding. And this is really where Tomit University model can really play a major role in improving the local community's standing. And this is just an example. Columbia University in New York is one of our communities. So as you can see here, these are kind of different examples of different products that exist on our web platform, from prostheses to ramps to for wheelchairs, for grabbers, all sorts. I really highly recommend you go over the library of products. It really is amazing to see what teams all around the world have created throughout the 5 years that TOM has been in existence. And this is just to give you how a product page looks like. This is a text-to-speech, which is a device that helps visually impaired and the blind to really use their simple text-to-speech app on their smartphone. So this really is a very simple device to create. It costs a few dozens of dollars, nothing more. You can actually position, according to your phone, you can position the exact location and distance from the paper and then scan it through the phone. You can fold it, it goes into your backpack, and it's very simple to use. So this has kind of been our work for the past 5 years, bringing Tikkun Olam to all corners of the earth. And then the coronavirus hit, and we were saying, like, listen, everything that we regularly do, our make-a-thon, our activities that all require physical interaction between people, and especially people at high risk, such as older persons, people with disabilities, these events cannot happen. So how can we use these communities and this ability to 3D print and create solutions for the COVID-19? And we've come together and we've pivoted all our operations, and we've had a major call to all our communities to really tackle solutions for COVID-19. And this is our approach. 1, creating a database of open source COVID-19 solutions. 2, a maker army composed of corona response teams that manufacture and distribute solutions in local communities. And 3, creating partnerships and coalitions. And we'll go into a little bit of the details now. So the first one is really an online library of solutions. Our website, we opened a new community dedicated solely for the COVID-19. Our R&D team that is based in Tel Aviv, in Israel, has scoured the web to look for the most promising and the best solutions that can be really created in your local maker spaces at homes with 3D printers, and curated all these solutions into one page so that makers and corona response teams, whether them individuals or teams, can actually go to one localized hub and not need to really go over through an enormous amount of data around the web to find these solutions. Currently, we have about 45 solutions, and this is a living and breathing list that keeps updating continuously. The second is a maker army. So we issued a big call, a broad call. We've had 7 webinars and info sessions that we've held with people, individuals, and teams, from people that have a 3D printer at home, to people that work at universities, to people that work at schools, and are trying to see if they can utilize their skills to really bring it together. So in order to create this, a maker army, we created a short playbook, not as extensive as our regular Tong Process playbook because of the need to rapid response. And the playbook really details and explains how you form a team, how you source a need in your local community, whether it's a nursing home, whether it's a hospital, and then what are the best solutions, direct you to our website, and then simply create and deliver. And now I want to give you a few of our examples. And this is the first example I want to share with you is from our Tom Israel communities. Tom in Israel was really tasked to mobilize was tasked by the Prime Minister's office to mobilize all of the maker spaces at universities, colleges, and also on all the individuals that really have 3D printers at home and making capabilities at home. So far, our communities in Israel have donated more than 7,000 face shields and other protective equipment, other personal protective equipment to mostly nursing homes for the elderly and for special education programs for children with disabilities. And that was the main focus in Israel for our communities. And these are two examples of communities, HIT, which is Holon Institute of Technology, and Shenkar College. Both are design colleges that really, both in the college itself, they printed, and also students that have printers at home printed and really contributed to this massive, massive effort. And this is from our nursing home staff receiving the masks. Also at schools, these are just a few of the examples of how children with disabilities, their providers, their teachers need to be protected. So this continuous effort of providing education can continue. And this is an immense, immense effort. Our communities around the world have as well as contributed in different ways and forms. In our community in Mexico City, in Mexico, they've donated more than 1,100, sorry. So the masks, but also what's important in Mexico, they've actually made 3,500 ventilator splitters to allow hospitals to provide oxygen to 2 people instead of 1. So there's a huge shortage of ventilators, I'm sure you all know, around the world because of the respiratory illness that COVID-19 causes. And this splitter allows for a ventilator to really provide oxygen to 2 people. I have to say that each hospital, according to its own regulation, and each country according to their own regulation of Ministry of Health. So one solution might not work in another community, but that doesn't mean that that solution cannot be adjusted and customized to the needs and the regulations in a set country. And this is exactly where the open source is at. The same way in Tom Santiago, in Chile, they've devised a face mask, a specialized face mask that they have been manufacturing and donating to mostly the special education programs for the teachers. As well, this can be modified and adjusted according to the needs in your own community. In Melbourne, in Australia, the community decided to go to a different route. They started out with a support group online with Facebook, supporting their need knower community, mostly people with disabilities and older persons, providing them with services such as grocery, emotional support because of the loneliness that became such a crucial part of the coronavirus lifestyle that we've all been accustomed to. Me, myself, and my colleague Mayan, who's also on the call, we've been at home for more than 2.5 months now with no end in sight. And the same with our communities in the United States. You see here from Columbia University, Tom in Atlanta, Tom in Miami. They've printed face shields more than, I think now it's well above the 5,000 face shields, and provided them to fertility clinics, hospitals, all nursing homes, and more. Up to today, from April 1st, basically, for a month and a half, we've managed to deliver more than 50,000 units of personal protective equipment to different types of establishment and to different types of needs. And this is a very important point. Each community with its own dedicated need, whether it's in a hospital, whether it's in a nursing home, and whether it's in special education programs. or others. So this can go really to many, many, many directions. And there's so many different types of solutions that really are tailored for different types of communities. I cannot finish without mentioning one very important point, is that everything that we do at TOM is really to provide, is really aligned with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. On a personal level, both Mayan and I were lucky enough to be at the UN's General Assembly for the adoption of the Sustainable Development Goal, which Mayan actually took active role in negotiating. But that's maybe for another session. TOM really is bringing communities the story of innovation, of inclusivity, of gender equality. And these are not empty words. We see this in every activity that we hold anywhere around the world. TOM solutions affect the well-being of individuals, but not just, but the entire, their surrounding is also critically impacted by their well-being improved. Our communities are inclusive and they provide a safe space for women and girls to really experience making, learning STEM, and be part of an innovation process. And once you start that at a younger age, the more you direct people when they're going into their higher education to STEM, technology, engineering, which is a huge, huge and important point for women and girls. TOM activities also, and this goes to the presentation from the beginning, TOM activities promote microeconomy and small businesses, because everything that we do in our communities is locally manufactured. And this is really a huge boost. This can be a huge boost into the abilities of locals to make, create, prototype. And we see this, a very good example for this is our community in Mexico City, where really through 3D printing and this process that we've gone through in during the coronavirus, a lot of people that have lost jobs have learned a new skill, and a skill that is required in today's world. So with that, you know, new economic opportunities can arise, and it is extremely important for communities, especially during this time where so many people are losing their jobs. I thank you so much for paying attention. I hope this wasn't you know, too much, but I'm happy to take any question you might have. Thank you.
So Nadav, unfortunately our time is limited, so we only have time for 2 questions.
Okay.
One question was, would you be able to cover the benefits of using 3D printing in this context? For those who are less familiar with the system, or are considering, you know, what are the benefits, and the second question is, what would be kind of your call for collaboration with our audience here in Ethiopia? Whoever followed this this presentation was highly interested. What's the next step to staying in touch and moving forward?
Sure. So I'll touch base very quickly on the first question. Actually, I'll start with the second question. If you want to start a TOM community, whether it's in your university, your city, your college, your high school, you want to start a Corona response team to really address the needs during the crisis now, please reach out to me. My email is in the bottom. Also, we'll send it over in the chat. So I'm your contact person for anything TOM. So please, let's continue the conversation on what's the next step. Things are really, really simple. So I just encourage people to reach out. On the first question, I think that 3D printing is just is a component of what is called distributed manufacturing in comparison to centralized manufacturing. And this is exactly where I think this crisis today with the coronavirus really showed everyone around the world the immense power and ability of 3D printing. In normal times, you know, we did not invent a face shield. Face shields were in existence before that. You would go to your dentist, or in a certain, like a surgeon in a hospital would use a face shield. But because centralized manufacturing, mainly in China, came to a complete halt because of the coronavirus, huge shortages have become apparent all over the world. And because everyone around the world is really reliant on one major centralized manufacturer that does mass production. Instead, by using a 3D printing technology, each and every one of us, with a little bit of instruction, a little bit of guidance and learning, can become their own, you can become your own manufacturing node, and really either manufacture on your own. And there's many different things that you can manufacture, whether it's be prostheses, like the example I gave you, but it can also be commercial items that you can produce and make money out of. So both are very valid examples. And that way you're not reliant on someone else's ability to create. And I think this really goes into bringing back manufacturing capabilities into countries. Today, a low price point 3D printer can cost about $250, $300 that you can buy online and have it shipped to you. These are kind of the estimates. So if you invest $1,000 $500 you can buy 2 printers. With those 2 printers, you can create a lot of things. The printer works throughout the day. You don't have to be at all times next to it. So this really provides a huge potential for locals to create and manufacture on a small to medium scale without being dependent on mass production and somewhere else, shipping costs, and everything that is connected to the logistics chain that we've been accustomed to as a global world. So I don't know if we have more time or no, but I'm happy to again reach out to me, and I'm happy to answer any question anyone would have also at a later date.
Perfect. So I see, you can all copy Nadav's email, and we'll also post it in the chat for you to reach out to him directly and continue the conversation. If there are any more questions regarding Tom, please write them in the Q&A section, and Nadav and Marianne will reply to specific and technical questions personally. You can see that they're already responding. I'd like to update our second survey for the day, Wadasu, if it's possible. Thank you very much, Nadav, for this great presentation and for answering the questions, and I'm sure many more are coming. I'd now like to present Eli Serg, who's the co-founder and CTO of Forstrom. This is a fintech startup with a really interesting story, both as to how it's been established and what has happened to it during Corona days and in the COVID response. We've received questions and feedback that would like to hear and see more entrepreneurial stories in this webinar series. So Yarden from the Pears program team would be here to facilitate this kind of open conversation with an entrepreneur that could give the entrepreneurs in the crowd some insights and practical approaches to developing your own ventures. Just to give a bit of background to the story, we published a poll, and you could learn a bit about the type of challenges that Ali had been dealing with in his own context and how can those be applicable to you. So I leave the floor to you, Yarden and Ali. And just like before, if you have any questions, please post them at the Q&A section, and Yarden will immediately reach out to Ali and answer those.
Thank you, Hagit. So as you mentioned, and as we mentioned also all along this webinar, the pandemic is having a toll on small businesses. And so now we will discuss the economic impact due to COVID-19 pandemic and the journey of an entrepreneur, an impressive one, and that is focused on small businesses. So Ali is actually joining us from Vancouver in Canada. It's almost 6 a.m. for him. So good morning, Ali. And welcome. And please tell us a bit about yourself and about Forstrom's story. How did it start?
Absolutely. And good evening, good afternoon, whatever the case may be to everyone else on the call. I guess before I get into my specific story, if there's one takeaway that I really want everyone to fully appreciate, it's that no matter where you are in the world, no matter what resources you have, as long as you have an internet connection and you have time, you can create impact for your entire community and entire world. And that's pretty much the mindset, I think, behind what Nadav is doing, as well as what my startup's doing. And that kind of mindset is what really got me involved in entrepreneurship in the beginning. Initially, back in 2013, I started university at the University of British Columbia, planning to major in philosophy and film production. Near the end of my first year, took my first computer science class and absolutely fell in love with it. And I realized that never before in human history have we got this close to actual magic, where, you know, spending one weekend of time, creativity, effort, you could create something that could positively impact millions of people. Like, what other industries like that? What other time in history were you capable of creating such escalating impact? And with that mindset, throughout my time at university, I would start social good projects, trying to really use technology, not loving technology for the sake of technology, but appreciating it as a tool for creating impact and improving people's lives. Like, no one's passionate about a screwdriver. They're passionate about what the tools build. Like, they're passionate about building a house to support their family, or a wall to protect their community, so on and so forth, right? So that's the paradigm I've always taken with technology. And I worked on projects with friends, such as creating digital ID for the homeless in our city who lack digital IDs and need them for various services, like going to detox centers, or creating cognitive retraining applications for people recovering from strokes or Alzheimer's. And in my last year of university, I was sitting with several of my close friends, and we were talking about the global entrepreneurial system. We were talking about how, for founders and people from a huge variety of business backgrounds, fundraising tends to be a full-time job. And I'd worked at that time a year at SAP in their predictive analytics team. Another one of my co-founders, Salman, he worked at Broadridge, which is one of the largest financial technology companies in the world. They create the software for the major banks. And the third of us, Kelso, he worked in investment banking, and we decided to put our heads together and create a neobank, Canada's first ever neobank for businesses. What a neobank is it's essentially a 100% online bank. And the spin that we were taking is that there's only 5 major banks in Canada, and they have a monopoly. They have experiences that feel like they're from 30 years ago. Customer service isn't that great. What we wanted to do was create a completely new experience, one where people, the second they log into their bank account, their entire cash flow managed end to end is completely managed. You know, it automatically looks through their finances if they opt in, and pre-qualifies them for grants from the government, or it can connect them to investors that would like to see the metrics that those businesses have, or it displays their financial information in such a way that doesn't overwhelm them with the numbers. A lot of business founders they're not actually numbers people, right? So how do you take the information, the data your business is generating to really help you? And we created that. We ended up getting into the Techstars and Barclays accelerator in Tel Aviv. We flew halfway across the world there, and we were the youngest team in the program, as well as our CEO was the youngest ever to go through any of the cohorts. So it was super exciting. Since then, we just came back. We got backed by IBM, as well as just been hustling ever since.
Yeah, thank you for this impressive story. Can you tell us actually how old are you today?
So pretty much everyone in our team is 25 or younger. I'm the 25-year-old.
Yeah, that's it. That's adding to the impressive. You mentioned it, Ali, but according to your experience, do the words of social good and business contradict?
Absolutely not. I kind of think that the world of entrepreneurship, it's about having a paradigm where you're trying to harness resources and creatively address pressing issues in your community. Again, like the way that me and my co-founders for our business initially met was creating that open source digital ID project for the homeless in our city. Like, we've always been connected to creating positive impact for people. And I do strongly believe that empathy plays a huge role in that. And the best leaders, especially in the business world, are empathetic leaders. So absolutely, I think that the core of it, putting creativity towards solving pressing issues or problems that real people face, it's the same between solving social good problems as well as business problems.
Thank you. And that's a good takeaway. Going a bit to COVID-19 pandemic, which impact on SMBs did you identify due to the pandemic, and how has your team applied your startup experience to fight it?
Right. So one really cool thing that we do at Fostrum, which I think a lot more financial technology companies or businesses in general can really benefit from, is having these, we call them Sandbox Thursdays. What Sandbox Thursday is essentially we dedicate a certain amount of time to everyone in the team to pursue purpose-driven projects, whatever they're passionate about, whether it's makerspace like what Nadaf is involved with, or creating, open source projects or contributing to them. We encourage that. And there's been studies that showed, it helps with employee retention for the businesses, but also it really boosts innovation. I don't know how many people in this call have used Gmail before, but Gmail pretty much came from a similar initiative at Google, where they allow their employees to pursue whatever projects they want for a certain amount of time. And so during one of these Thursday Sandbox days, we were really talking about what kind of feedback we were hearing from our customer discovery. And what customer discovery is in the entrepreneurial sense is it's essentially talking to the need knowers that Nadaf mentioned before, going to your users that you deal with every day and asking them, like, what is your most pressing problem? Like, what are the challenges you're facing? How are you going about resolving them? What do you not like? What do you like about the solutions you're currently doing? So that's something we have baked into our culture. We're always doing it. When COVID-19 just started, we kept on hearing all sorts of things from these business owners. Like the discussions completely shifted. People were saying, oh, when is the government going to announce news that's relevant to me? Or, oh, my revenues went down. These factories that, we are importing all of our inventory from, they stopped. We don't have any more inventory to sell, but we're still paying employees. We're still paying rent. They were looking every single day on the news for hours and hours and hours for information that was relevant to their business's survival. And so we got together on one of these Thursdays and we said, okay, you know what? We're not first responders. We don't have any medical expertise, but what we do know how to do is code. So that's really how COVID Impact started. And once we realized that, like, stats started coming out in our country related to the poll. I didn't quite see the results, but it's actually 80%. The real number in Canada is 80% of small businesses have either partially or fully closed down due to COVID-19. That's a lot, especially considering that they're the backbone of the economy, and 99% of all businesses in North America are small businesses. And not all of these businesses are treated equally. Retail, having inventory crashed is a lot more impacted negatively, and restaurants, because no one's going to eat there anymore, then they're ordering online here, but they're still more impacted than, say, software as a service companies, where they've already been working remotely or online for months and months and had a minimal impact. So how do you get relevant information to people specific to their industry, specific to their needs? That's really where the idea came about.
Great. So actually, could you tell us a bit more about the project COVID Impact?
Absolutely. So COVID Impact is essentially a small business care bundle that seeks to immunize businesses to the adverse effects of COVID-19 now, as well as the ramifications that are coming in the coming months. Currently in its iteration, it has three major components. One is a curated list of all of the government grants as well as programs to support businesses affected by COVID-19 in your local community. The second one is a business immunizer assessment tool, which is kind of like a recommender system. It uses artificial intelligence. You put in a bunch of information, like how big is your business, how much revenue you've lost, and it creates personalized recommendations for your business based on your industry, based on your size. Based on, I think I just dropped my plastic cup. Anyways, based on information that's relevant specifically to you, as well as tips and tricks for how to help for your specific business. If you're a restaurant, tips and tricks could be how to digitize and put your application on these food delivery apps that are popping up or that have been around for a while now. And the last one is smart news. So what that does is, based on your geolocation, when you log in, it parses the most relevant news in your community to small businesses that's related to COVID-19. And all of that news is parsed with sentiment analysis, which essentially helps guide decision makers, government officials, businesses towards seeing what are the trends in consumer spending, in optimism, so they could properly plan their course of action. And the reason we went down that road is because there have been studies where a survey was sent out to 60,000 small businesses, and 72% said that their biggest worry was cash flow issues. 70% here in Canada said that they were worried about the ramifications of COVID-19, how it's going to affect their industry. And over half of them were worried about accessing financial aid. Lastly, as people interact with the app, if they consent, it dynamically contributes information to a heat map, a global heat map, so that you can see in your country or community which industries or which geographic locations aren't getting the aid that they really need. And that's really to inspire the government to get those resources to those people. Yeah, that's the care bundle in a bundle.
Wow. It's quite impressive and very action item, and really feel that it's helping directly the businesses. So what's been the result, and where is it heading?
So essentially, the results have been phenomenal. It is a free open source project, so anyone can clone the repo. Anyone could get started with setting it up in their own community, and we created a process so we can help people get onboarded and deploy it. So local entrepreneurs in their communities can get all those resources. So far, we've already set up a team in South Africa, and we're setting up a team in Kazakhstan. We won 2 global competitions. One is the Code the Curve competition by UNESCO and SAP and IBM. The second is the Call for Code competition, which has seen over 300,000 developers go through it since it started from over 167 countries. So our team's been super excited about that traction, and our goal right now is just to deploy it all over the world. In the last week or so, we've already had 15 people join the team here in Canada, as well as we've gotten even university professors reaching out saying like, hey, you know, sometimes governments, they're well-meaning, they overpromise, but like in actuality, the resources get under-delivered. I want to help you as connect with government officials so that we make this process as streamlined as possible, or I want to connect you with these other professors. Like the outpouring of support has been phenomenal. And so far, I believe since I last checked our application, we've seen over 1,000 small businesses in the last week or so benefit from using the application.
Wow, quite impressive. Ali, you mentioned now that is actually an open source. We've heard a lot about the open source from Nadav, but could you explain again a bit of what is an open source and to what extent would you say that it's secure and sustainable?
Awesome. So open source is essentially any program or software or code that's made freely available to anyone in the world to modify or be changed by developers as they see fit, depending on the license. Usually they're MIT license, or people could do whatever they want with them. And it's usually developed as part of a collaboration freely available to everyone. So if you're in Sweden, if you're in Hong Kong, if you're in Nairobi, you could literally just go to the GitHub repository, which is the pool of code for that application, and you could copy it and you could change it any way you like and redeploy it. So open source is essentially taking that code and making it open to everyone. About the security concerns, there could be some security concerns. The best practice is to hide anything confidential using certain configuration files, or making sure that when you're posting that code publicly, you're not posting anything that could potentially compromise your application. If you're using application programming interfaces, APIs, which essentially allow you to use software from others, a lot of these services have automatic tools, as well as GitHub has created systems to automatically detect security problems, as well as modules that are outdated. So they update you, they send automated emails saying like, hey, you know, this is insecure, or you need to update this, or this is public, you should hide this. But you can't depend on that alone. It doesn't cover everything. The best thing to do is to be very proactive in ensuring that whatever you post online, you understand that everyone can see, and you don't want to be posting like your credit card information or credentials to any application in that code. So be very, very careful about what you post.
Okay, thank you so much. That was actually making it very clear for all of us that are a bit less technological. And setting a bit more what is the open source, how could the audience of the webinar from Ethiopia or from other places, we even saw somebody from Azerbaijan, could collaborate with you and use the platform to support businesses in their community?
Fantastic. So one way they could do it is they could email me at ali@fostrum.com, as well as I'll share the link to the GitHub repo, which again, it's the pool of code that people can deploy or copy from. And they can directly contribute there. They'll find a form that they can use to sign up if they want to create a team in their country. Again, we're already expanding globally, and we're backed by UNESCO and IBM. And if you guys if anyone on the call is interested in setting up in their own community, whether it's Azerbaijan or Ethiopia or Tel Aviv, we'd be more than happy to connect with them and go through the whole process so they can get it up and running and benefit the entrepreneurial ecosystem in their community. Because really, at the end of the day, the question is, when will things go back to normal? Things aren't going to go back to normal when social distancing ends. It's not going to go back to normal when we're able to go outside and enjoy the sun as we see fit. It's going to go back to normal when the economy heals. And that could take a long time. We're trying to make that happen faster. And we really believe that this will help in that. So if you want to help on, join the cause.
That's great to hear. And I'm looking now at the questions from the audience, and there is one question that was about this, to give the list of applications of open source that can be used, that can be useful. And so I think that yours is a great example and secure, and that they can use. Ali, I will ask you one questions from the audience, as we have a bit less of time. We're a bit short on time. So there is here, would you suggest a solution to tackle the impact of COVID-19 on business in the following cases? Scenario 1, what if it becomes under control with short time?
I'm not sure I understand what the question's asking.
Sure. So would you suggest a solution to tackle the impact of COVID-19 on business if it becomes under control with short time? Scenario 2, let's say, what if it continues at an alarming rate? And what should the business and government do?
So really, if it, I'll answer the second one, and whoever asked, like, I'd love if you could perhaps rephrase the first one, because I wasn't entirely sure. But really, if it continues to increase at an alarming rate, the idea of going outside again becomes more or less distant. So I would say that the government should definitely focus on creating digital business directories where they showcase which businesses by industry, like, you know, food and beverage, retail, this and that one, are currently operating, how they're currently operating, as well as make concentrated efforts towards digitizing those different industries. It could be as easy as putting together cars with contactless delivery for all the restaurants and putting them all under an umbrella so that those vehicles can go and deliver from those mom and pop or smaller restaurants in Ethiopia. When it comes to retail, yeah, same thing, creating a logistics network to really help in the digitization of all of those businesses. Think about it like here in Canada, in Toronto, I know that Shopify is an organization that works with brick and mortar retail stores to turn them into e-commerce stores so they could sell all of their goods online. And they've been working with the government in Toronto, as well as other groups to help with digitizing all the businesses there. I think something similar can definitely be done in Ethiopia. And whoever asked that, I'd love if you want to have an ideation session and just go back and forth and discuss potential solutions, you could send me an email. I wouldn't mind getting on a call and brainstorming with you. I actually love doing this kind of thing.
That's a great invitation, actually. So we invite you to share your email address on the chat, and for everybody else that had a question, please feel free to reach out to us, and we can put you in touch. Ali, thank you so much for taking the time and for waking up so early to tell us about this really impressive journey and of this initiative that is directly tackling the economical impact on small businesses, which is huge. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, guys.
Thank you very much, Yaden and Ali. As we are about to wrap up this session, I want to go back to Lizachu's initial point of describing how great are the challenges and the impact of COVID-19 on the industry and the economic sector in Ethiopia, as well as the huge social impact. In the first poll that we upload, there was various answers as to what is the biggest challenge. I think globally and definitely in Ethiopia as well, we're facing huge challenges. I'm not sure we were able to cover and provide good answers to them all, but I think what was evident in today's webinar is the role of entrepreneurs and innovators and makers, and what role do they have to play in trying to tackle those challenges, and how huge of an impact the community of innovators can have. And so a big shout out to the entrepreneurs in the audience to continue and doing the work you do. And as mentioned here, we are open for collaboration and support in any way we can, and also both Nadav on behalf of Tom and Ali are open for collaboration. So please take our invitation and reach out, and we'd love to stay in touch and continue and supporting you. It's been a pleasure meeting, interacting with you, receiving your comments, and we've really enjoyed this remote communication and all that it brought. I'd like to invite Udasset to give some closing remarks on behalf of UNDP.
Thank you, Haggett. I was just trying to find my camera. I just wanted to thank everyone for joining this webinar. It has really been a pleasure for the Accelerator Lab and UNDP to host these webinars for the past 3 weeks. I really want to thank you, Haggett and Yarden, for helping us organize it and for moderating the webinars over the past 3 weeks. I also want to thank Daniel for working with us and for supporting us along the way and attending each and every one of them, and giving us some insights into the work that the embassy is also doing in Ethiopia in regards to COVID and other areas as well. I also want to thank Gazacho for joining us today, and also the other two speakers that joined us before from UNDP, who have also given us some insight into the work that we're doing. So this has been really great, and thank you so much for being so open to speak with us about your innovations and being so open to collaborate, and giving us all this opportunity to not only see what is happening in Israel and get some inspiration from it, but also being open to work with us along the way in the coming weeks and months as we also discover new ways of working together. So thank you, everyone. I hope this was helpful, and we hope to have such platforms in the future as well, where we're coming together and working on challenges together as well. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Udasa, and Nadav and Ali. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. Wishing you all good afternoon, and Nadav and Ali, have a good day. And
Thank you.
we'll be in touch.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.